Like many video game fans that grew up playing video games in the early 2000s, this intro sequence brings a sense of nostalgia. This is the introduction that plays when you boot up the game Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 came out in 1996 and was the last major home console to use cartridges for their video games, which were eventually replaced by CDs. Super Smash Bros. Came out in 1999 and was unique in that it had characters from several different Nintendo franchises. In its essence, it was a fighting game that was a crossover between the characters from everyone's favorite video game series, such as the Super Mario Bros., Donkey Kong, Star Fox, and even some Pokemon. The kid-friendly graphics, combined with its ability to allow 4 players to play at once, made it an instant classic. If you knew the game, everyone had their group of friends that they would play Smash with. However, both the Nintendo 64 and Super Smash Bros. Would soon be replaced by their sequels.
This game's winner is
Nintendo released its sequel to the Nintendo 64, the GameCube, in 2001, which now used mini-discs and a revamped controller. Along with the GameCube came Super Smash Bros. Melee, the new version of Super Smash Bros.
Smash Bros. Melee was the game that came out after the 64 version. It came out in 2001, so only like 2 years later.
It didn't really get much exposure, and a part of that I think goes to Melee coming out a couple years afterwards. It was only a couple years older, had a lot more to it, more characters, more tech, so the game there developed wider than 64 did.
After Melee, they came out with Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii. And then most recently they came out with Smash 4 for the Wii U. So it would seem like this game shed a bright but brief light in the world of video games, and people would gradually start to play the newer games with better graphics, right? Not quite. So, what's the story here? As people started playing the game longer, they began to notice some peculiar things. They found these advanced techniques that weren't found in any of the tutorials for the game.
What makes it different is these kind of advanced techniques, and it's these subtleties to the game that people have figured out, almost glitches that can be exploited.
In Smash 64, the advanced techniques, they're all glitches. We all found them as a community together. We found them in this process of discovery that the developers of the game never intended.
Things that were discovered, a lot of them by accident, or a lot of them by people literally taking the ROM of the game, putting it on the computer, breaking it down, looking into the code, and seeing all of these things they can do and get away with.
Then, as the digital revolution continued to grow, and sites like YouTube became popular, these secrets could easily be found, which created a competitive scene for what was at first a seemingly simple game made for kids.
You can go out to anybody in your college dorm or anywhere and just be like, oh, Smash Bros. And every kid's played it, every kid likes it, every kid thinks it's the best at it because they can meet their friends. What's made the competitive scene different than the casual scene, which is everyone thinks they're competitive until they start playing competitive people.
And like everybody, you think you're really good in college, and then you meet some people, you find out you actually suck.
Most kids that moved on to other games never got a chance to realize that these glitches existed. And so everyone that was best in their own circle of friends had no idea the potential that this game truly held.
So a casual player, they kind of just button mash. They just go at the person they attack. They're just thinking attack, 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 kill, kill, kill. The strongest move is going to be the strongest hit. So what kind of development's been, it's called the metagame, was to look at the game and see, kind of break it down and see not necessarily what does the most damage, but what allows you to do another move that when the two moves add together equals more damage. And then if you can chain moves, that's where comboing came in.
I was one of those kids who was better than all of my friends, so I thought I was the best. And then I discovered Xanadu.
One day, a few of us, we saw a Craigslist ad that just said, I am better than you at Smash Brothers. I will beat you no matter what. So of course we had to follow up on this. We got this guy to come out to this bar that we play at every week. And he shows up, he beats a couple people. Again, he's saying, if you beat me, I will give you $20. So I'm like, all right, yeah, come out. He beats a couple people, and then I beat him with 3 different characters. He's like, oh man, like, they're actually good players here. Like, I had no idea.
I basically asked around. I knew some people that were playing. I made a Craigslist post, got people to reply back to that. I got Xanadu to advertise it.
And then that was kind of where the whole competitive scene in Baltimore started, from a Craigslist ad.
And so now what I do is I'm called a tournament organizer. I build the bracket. I make sure everyone plays their matches. I tell them who they're playing against. I record the matches. I stream them and I upload them to YouTube. So I kind of outreach to the rest of the world, the community, for our tournament, as well as managing and running the tournament as it happens with the players that frequently come here.
So I guess the story here is that there's a community of people dispersed in tiny sections scattered throughout the globe that has essentially figured out the ins and outs of this game that came out 16 years ago, even though it was replaced by numerous other sequels and video game systems. This newer generation of kids will never know what it's like to have to blow into a cartridge to get it to work. And unless it's passed down, this game might live and die with this steadily growing group of people.